Right, hello. This is a quick video showing you how to prepare interviews transcriptions for coding so that you can analyze your engagement activity interview transcripts. In the end, you'll have something like this where you can look through a single document as you're writing your engagement activity write-up and seeing what themes you noticed as you were going through your interview. This can also be done with other texts, like if you have several articles that you're looking at, you can also code them in the same way. But the purpose of this set of instructions is going to be specifically looking at how to do that with interview data. So first of all, these instructions follow the article by Solveig Osse from 2016. I'll have that linked below. Second of all, the parts of this video will be broken down below. So if you're already familiar with how to use Excel, or if you're jumping around, you can come back to this video later and see which parts of the video you need to have a refresher on. So the first thing you have to do is come up with the interview transcript, or you have to do the interview first, of course. I'm using here a sample from one of our students. So they've done an interview here with two different interviewees, and I've just copied this over so that we have a second interview to look at. But what you notice here is that as you transcribe your interview, you should be using I to indicate yourself as an interviewer, and then R to indicate the interviewee. Uniquely in this interview, there were two interviewees, so they're indicated as R1 and R2. And then in the second interview, where they're simply given as R. And of course, if the interviewee is comfortable using their name, you could always indicate that if anything for yourself, somewhere at the top, or maybe in the title. But for the purposes of coding, it's much easier if you simply have this listed somewhere, and you can I can show you, or I'll show later as you do the coding. You can have the interviewees listed in a separate Excel sheet. So really important as you are transcribing the interview, you want to be using colons. This is going to be used later when we transfer this from Google Docs over to Microsoft Excel, or if you're using Microsoft Word, that's fine too. But it's very important so that we can tell Excel what to use to separate these into different columns. So we have the I, or the legend on the left, indicating who's speaking, and then on the right, what's being said. Importantly, you don't have to include, or you shouldn't be including colons at least within the transcription, because we're going to be using colons to separate. We're going to be using colons to tell Excel how to separate or interview transcript. So that's the one thing you want to make sure you only use in this part where you have the legend. Other than that, punctuation can be rather bare. Question marks and periods are usually fine enough. The student didn't put periods, but it's fine to or not to. Yeah, so this is the transcript portion. Once you have this done, it doesn't matter too much what's at the top or the bottom. You simply want to copy over what's over here. So we have the end of the interview. We copy this over for the purposes of this demonstration. I'll try to avoid using shortcuts that you can see what I'm doing. But I'm copying this text now, and I'm going to go ahead and open a clean Excel sheet. So we don't need these for now. So open a clean Excel sheet, and I will paste them here, first column. And now everything should be located in column A. So what we do is we select, I guess the halo doesn't quite disappears a little bit when I'm using Excel, but hopefully you can see the halo around the cursor, and then as I move it here to column A. So what we're going to do now is we go over to the data, on the top, one of these tabs on the top, and then we find under data tools, the text to columns option. And because we use that the colon, we can tell Excel using this delimited option how to sort these into different columns. So we deselect tab and we select other, and then we put a colon there, and you can see as I typed in the colon, the table appears. So now Excel knows to use a colon to separate these two into different columns. Click next, finish, and you'll notice now we have two columns of data. Now you can see that the text is flowing a bit off the screen. So what we're going to do, just to adjust that visually, you select this top left button up here, select the whole data sheet. You can double click over here, and that'll fit the width of each column to match what we have there. And then we can resize this column. You can see because of my laptop screen, this goes off the page. So what we can do is select, as here I've selected all of column B, and change the column width. 150 works okay for me to have here visually. You can resize it as you see fit, but this works on my screen. So again, you select column B, and now we go back to the Home tab, and we select Wrap Text under Alignment, and this allows all the text to flow around so that it fits into our width or column width. And you can see here, because one of the respondents answered only using a year, the Excel sheet or Microsoft Excel has identified that as numerical data. So you'll want to left line if that's the case, just to make sure everything's flush to the left. It's not terribly important, but it helps us when you're going through the coding process. Now we have here, we can put here interview 1, and basically do the same with the second interview. So if that was difficult to follow along, I'll show you again. So we select everything here. We don't want this stuff, and we don't want the beginning stuff, so we're only taking the interview section. Sorry, I guess I used a shortcut there. And then we're pasting this. It doesn't really matter which one you choose. I guess ultimately match destination formatting is probably better, because we'll reformat it later. It doesn't matter too much though. So again, we go to data, text to columns, delimited, next, and then we have the column there ready to separate these, and finish. And now they're set up. And you want to do this with all of your interviews. Again, resizing this so that we have it at the right size. So again, 150 works fine for me. And then one thing I remember now I forgot to do, just to make this a little bit easier to look at, one extra step we will want to take. This will be relevant later as well when we convert this to a Word. Is we go to data and we want to filter all of our data. So the interviewee text we want bolded. So you can do that or Control B. And what you notice now, if we have a look at everything, so I select all. I've selected only I, so that the interviewer text was bolded. And now if we have a look at everything, we can see that the interviewer speech, the utterances, are all bolded, and all the interviewee speeches are unbolded. So that's all sorted now. Similarly, over here, we just want to filter out all of the interviewer text. Again, select column B, bold them. Control B also works. And then when we look at everything, we should now have this all set up. Okay, so now that you have all of your interview transcripts transferred over, and I guess actually, sorry, we can unbold this text. We don't need that bolded. Now that we have all the interview transcript text transferred over to Excel, we begin the coding process. So this is where you now have a look at your data and think about what kinds of themes show up. So I'm just going to set up this coding sheet, a separate sheet. Over here, you can put the numbers 1, 2, and 3 in column B, and then drag this down, and it'll sequence them. So as we go through and think about the transcript, we can start putting codes here. So as we go through, I guess there's nothing much to say with this no here, but we can see here, when was the last time you voted? I already could not vote when it was Brown or Cameron. So here maybe we might link this question and answer to something like vote timing or something like that. So that's something that we'll find as we go through. Maybe this utterance as well is relevant. When was the last time, and have you voted at all? And then so this have you voted at all? Maybe this is a separate point. Despite not living in the United Kingdom at the moment, I'm assuming since neither of you have the right to vote. So now we have something about rights. So maybe our second code might have something to do with voting rights. Right. So as you go through, you can come up with what ideas you see are the most prevalent. If you notice that there's several ideas that are present, there are a couple of solutions to this. So first of all, what you can do is copy this and paste it again. So if I notice here, okay, there's voting rights here, but then there's something here about Finnish citizen. So maybe I want to also code this as dual citizenship, let's say. So now I have code 3, and the same utterance, the same thing entirely that's said by the one speaker, I've coded as 2 and 3, and I've represented that here by copy and pasting it. If I think the point about being a dual citizen is only part of the text, it's a little bit hard to edit, but I guess you can open up a notepad, paste this, think about which part is actually relevant to dual nationality. I'm not actually reading through this, but just trying to demonstrate. So let's say that text is relevant. So I copy that over, select this all, and okay, I guess I'm pressing Control A here. I forgot to narrate what I'm doing. And then I'm pasting this over. And now we have this text. So you have the option there of either using the entire statement, copying and pasting that. There's some issues now with the spacing. But you can see that I've taken a portion of the statement, cut it down, and then coded that as 3. So if you're finding that you want to divide up parts of the text so that only some of it is coded, or if you want to code the same text multiple times, you might want to do that, duplicate it, and then you can limit it down, trim it down, and then put the codes to the right. Not quite like I've done, because I'm just noticing here that I've got some mistakes in how I've copied and pasted it, but that's perfectly fine for this demonstration. So what you want to do is go through the whole transcript, read through, and do this process of coding. You'll come up with several different codes, I guess, for the purposes of this demonstration. Maybe we'll find something about soft power here. Maybe something about human rights in general, just so that we have a couple different codes we're working with, and then I guess we'll have to actually put some of those down. So let's say, make sure I actually remember to include your question as well with the same code. And then if we go over to interview 2, let's just say that this is our number 5s. So now you've got all this coded. Let's say, let's pretend that I've coded everything. So now you've coded all of your interview data, and you're going to want to transfer it over to Word now, so that you can have all the codes in one place. So what we're going to do now is make a separate sheet with this plus button. We're going to have a combine sheet, and what we're going to do is copy all of that over. So you'll just select, I guess we can select column 1, and then hold Shift, click on column 58, and then copy this over. You want to do it sequentially, and paste it. Oops. I guess we want to paste with the right formatting. So keep source column width. That's the one we want. So it's it's that special paste option. Again, we select column 1, go all the way down, hold Shift, select column 16 here, copy it over. We go to the bottom of our combined file, select column 59, and then we want to paste that column width option. So this with the 2 arrows there, or I guess at this point the column width is already set. Okay, so in this case I have 2 interviews. You may have more, but in this case I've only got 2, and now I've got a problem with the column width. So what you want to do now is sort out which interview is from which. So actually, so I guess I've done this wrong now. Before we add all of them, I just undid that there. Before we add all of them, maybe one thing we want to do first is insert a couple columns to the left. And this way we know which interview we're talking about. Actually, sorry, this is wrong. So I'll have to transpose this later. Okay, so now that you've coded everything, before we combine them into a single spreadsheet, what we're going to want to do is indicate which interviews and interviewees we have talking. So what we're going to do is select the first 2 columns and click Insert. This will add 2 columns to the left. And what we're going to do is label this as interview 1. So we remember that this is the first interview. And then column 2 will have will indicate which interviewees we're talking about here. So for interview 1, we can just go ahead and drag this or copy and paste it. It's all going to be the same. It's all going to be from the first interview. Oops. Okay, sorry. What we'll do is we'll copy and paste it. So we select that, hold Shift, and then paste. So this is all interview 1. And then what we're going to do is filter these. So for interviewee, we'll go ahead and write IE 1 and 2. Indicate that this is gonna keep doing the shortcuts here. But you copy this, you select everything, hold Shift, click, and paste. So now we have interviewees 1 and 2 listed, and then we select R1, and now we have here. I guess we still have this selected, so that shows up. So now we have IE1 here, and again, copy this over. Okay, keep doing the shortcuts. Select the next column, press Shift or hold down Shift, paste that, and now we have interviewee 1, and we do the same thing for interviewee 2. So we have interviewee 2. Copy that. Select, hold down Shift, paste, and what you should have now is all of your demographic data. So you have the interview setting, that is interview 1, and then you have the speakers. So in this case, with the interviewee, I've indicated both interviewee 1 and 2, and then interviewee 1 here and interviewee 2. And if you want to make a separate sheet, you can indicate that here. If we have our interviewers or interviewees, we can indicate that over here, IE1, IE2, IE1, IE2, and IE3, and then we can put the names there. And this is just so that we know we remember who these who's being referred to as IEs 1, 2, and 3. And in this case, you can actually just put the names here if they're okay being used. That's fine. And we'll do the same thing with this with interview 2, but I'll do that off camera. Okay, so now I have set up both of the transcripts I have, but you can do this with however many, or if you've only done one interview with them all combined, that works too. But in this case, I have here 2 interview transcripts with 3 different interviewees. So I've indicated the interviewees in column B, as well as which interviewees I'm addressing in the interviewer indicated in column C, as well as which interview is being conducted in column A. So we have 1 and 2. And this part, as you go on to university and do other things, you might indicate different settings like this. Column A, you might put school name or institution name if you're at a certain IGO or NGO. You can play around with what kind of demographic data you want. For the purposes of the engagement activity, we only really need these two things so that we can figure out what's being said in the coding doc. We've got the codes here as well, and if we want to have our interviewees anonymized, then we might have the separate sheet so that we can have the names. Or if you want to be super safe about this, you can have a different notepad or doc where you have the names given, and you want that to be password protected, so that's GDPR safe. And that's how to do that is described in the PowerPoint slides, or sorry, the Google slides I have introducing the engagement activity. Okay. So now that we have all of this set, we're going to combine them together. So again, we click new sheet and drag this over, and we have now combined document. And what we do is we go to each of our sheets and we select row 1, scroll down, hold shift, go to the very end, and then copy this, paste it over. And when you paste it, you want to go paste special and choose this option over here. This keeps the source column width so that you don't have to resize it all as you did earlier. So we have all this information now. And then again, we go do the same thing, interview 2, select the first column, hold down shift, select the last column, copy. And now we can just paste this now that we have the column set. And you can see now that we have this organized so that the interview 1 and 2 are all set. So now what we want to do is pull both of these columns so that they're actually part of the text. So we're going to concatenate them, and then we're going to pile them together. I guess I'm noticing now, yeah, the codes are also here. It's just because I haven't coded my whole document, it doesn't show up, but hopefully you've gone through and coded your entire spreadsheets. So what we're going to do now is we select column F. I'll scroll over so you can see. So we select column F, and then we're going to select this function button. And then you can see I've recently used concatenate, but you'll most likely have one of these selected. So what you want to do is go to this category, select all, and this will sort all the functions alphabetically. And you want to scroll down to concatenate over here. So now we're going to tell Excel what we want in this column. So first of all, we want the actual text, the utterance that's said, and then we're going to want a space, and then after the space, an open parenthesis, and then now we're going to put our data. So we have here first the interview, and then we put an underscore, scroll down a bit, and then we want the interviewee identification, and then we have the closed parenthesis. So now we've told Excel what we want concatenated. So I'll just review this again. First, we selected the text that's being spoken. We added a space and then open parenthesis, and then we selected the interview number. We put an underscore. We selected the second or column B, and then we close the parenthesis. Now, when we press OK, you'll notice that again we can set the column width here. So that's 150 with text wrapping. And now you notice we have that same interview transcript, but after what's being said, we now have the demographic data. And you can notice that there's a formula here. So because there's a formula, we can just go ahead and drag this down. In this case, I don't actually know where my document ends, unfortunately, so I'll have to cheat a little bit, have a look. So I go to 74. So we drag this down here. So now we have all of our data our transcripts. And what we want to do is select column E, which is where your codes should be, depending on how much demographic information you put. And then we just paste that over to column G. And this just makes it easier for us to look at. Now that we're done with columns D and E, we can't delete them because we've used them in our formula, but we can hide these now because we don't need them anymore. So now you should have your demographic data still. You still have who said what, and now you have the concatenated interview data set up. And I guess one thing I'm noticing here, when I pasted the stuff over, the bolded text disappeared. Bit of a mistake. So what we can do is go to filter, and then select the I again, and then we just bold that over. I guess that had to do with when we pasted it with the column width. So now when we look at everything, it should be set up. Okay. Next step, we want to move our codes over. So we have this coding information. What we want to do is select everything here, and we want to underline them. And it'll make sense why we do that later. But this is when we transfer it over to Word, we want to be able to find all of this information easily. So we'll select the codes that we have, copy them, and paste them just below our interview transcripts. So now you should have all of your interview transcripts in one file, as well as the codes in the same document. And now we're going to begin the process of transferring it over to Word. So first thing we want to do, select column F, insert. We just want to have some kind of sequencer so that we can make sure we can sort all of this out in case something happens to it. So we have just a sequence to everything, so we can remember how this all went. And then on column I, we just have something to tell Excel what is the interview transcript. We indicate that with 1, and then what are the codes. And sorry, I guess we could have just typed 0 and then drag this down. So we have the codes given in 0. These are just binary codes. So we have 0 for the codes and then 1 for the transcript. And now we're all set. Now that you have everything sorted in a single document, you want to sort the columns so that you can easily transfer them over to Microsoft Word. So what we'll do is click up here, sort and filter, custom sort, and we're going to go column H first, which is our codes. and then we're going to go column I, which is the binary sorter, so that this way, if we have it smallest to largest, we have the code name first, and then our interview transcript second, and then column F, our sequencer, so that we have the first thing on the top. And if we click OK now, you can see that that's now sorted. So we have our first code first, and then listed first, or the name of the code is given first, and then we've got all of our data listed second. So now everything's done their job. Column G is really the only one we care about, and we're going to transfer this over to Word now, so that we can start using this, using all this work to generate themes, but then also so that we have something that can be used to analyze. So we select column G, copy it, and then we're going to open a clean Word file. And paste this over. And when you paste it, you want to keep the source formatting so that you have the text bulleted still. And what you notice if you select everything is that we still have columns there. So we essentially have a table, and if you select one of the text, you'll notice this. Oops, I guess most of you will have the margins there. I have this in non-print views because I don't like to see these margins. But if you select the text, you should have this pop up to select the whole table. You click on that one, you go up here to the table tools, and then you go to layout. And under data here, you have this convert to text option. And in this case, the way we've delimited the text is with paragraph marks. So yeah, there's a separate cell for each section we have. And if we click OK, we should have all this as a running text now. Right, well, you have that selected, so I accidentally unclicked. If you press Control A for Windows or Option A for Mac, you can select everything again. You do want to add some spaces. So I'm going to unclick this. So I do want spaces after each paragraph of the same style. I think single spacing should work fine for us, but this way we have a little bit of separation between each utterance. Now what we're going to do, you can see, you remember I said we needed to underline the codes, and this is why. Now that we have this underline, we can select the first coding theme. We go to select, and then up here, we're on the home tab. Under editing, there's a select option, and we can select all text with similar formatting. So now everything that's underlined should be selected, and we can choose this heading 1. And you can change this formatting however you want. I haven't changed it myself here, but if you prefer to have all of it in the same style, you can do that. However you want, it doesn't matter terribly. So now we have all this in heading 1. Actually, sorry, we want this in heading 2. So we select all that, and we do heading 2 for these. We'll use heading 1 to think about themes. So if you go through, you want to think about what unifies your different themes. In our case, human rights and soft power might actually not have been great options for coding themes or for codes, because these are usually actually larger ideas. But let's say that we have power and international law separately as themes that we might put our ideas under. So now I can set this as heading 1. Power and international law is heading 1. So these are the themes that we think our codes are going to fall under. So the way we put everything under the same theme easily is if we go to the view option, we can now go to the outline. And we can see what we have listed. So right now everything's under international law, but you can close all of these that you have. You can get this here, and now that we have all of this, we can sort of see, okay, human rights fits under international law, but then maybe soft power, maybe we're going to put here under power. So you can sort this out if you have different themes. You can move them however you want, but these themes just help organize the codes so that if we have a main concept that we're thinking about, we can put them into a specific place. And if you need to remind yourself what you had coded, you can have a look at that. And then I'm just double clicking. You can move them around however you wish. This doesn't make sense what I'm doing now, but let's say that it did make sense. So we've got these themes now. And if you want to make this, if you want to scroll through this a bit more easily, now if we look at the navigation pane, we now have our themes with the heading 1, and we can go through and look at our heading 2 ideas. Oh, sorry, our codes with heading 2. And I do like to hide these margins. So if you double click here on Microsoft Word, the margins will be hidden, and you can look through as running text. Of course, you can use web layout as well if you want running text. This way, you can just go through and see what you have written. So that's it. Now that you have this Word document, don't forget to save it. Now that you have this Word document, as you're writing your engagement activity write-up, you can go through, and whenever you're writing about human rights, you can go to your human rights section. You can have a look. These are what the interviewee said. These are the questions that you asked, and you can see how they responded. So this is quite a common practice when it comes to qualitative data analysis in the social sciences. Again, like I said, this works very well with interview transcripts, but just as well in this, as we were doing these interview codes, if you wanted each of these cells could actually be a paragraph from an article, and then you can separate those paragraphs out if you want to use separate codes, and that way you have one sheet for every article, news article, for instance, that you're looking at. You combine all the news articles in one, and then you have all the themes of the articles that you've analyzed together in a single document. So it works well whatever kind of text you're looking at. Interview transcripts just happen to be the primary source we were looking at for this activity. Thank you very much.